Hello everyone, my name is Will Brooks and my mission is to make coding fun and easy to learn. In today's video, we're going to briefly go over the box model and then look at the difference between content box and border box. So let's jump right in. Let's review the box model briefly before we look at content box versus border box. And let's just look at the right up here. It's really simple. We have a P tag here with a class equal box, and this is a box. We can see that on the right, and then we just have an ordered list here explaining what the box model is. And then if we look at our style sheet here, basically we have the universal selector at the top, font size 24 pixels, just to make the font larger so you can see it. Margin padding 0, 0. Default, set it back to 0. And then with the box, I have a width, height, padding, margin, box border there, and then the box shadow is a little bit unusual. I'm using the box shadow in an unusual sense, so you're not going to use it this way usually, but it's inset. So instead of the shadow being on the outside, it's on the inside. And since I have everything set at 0, and I have the last number at 20 pixels and the same padding at 20 pixels, this actually shows what the padding looks like. So the padding, this is actually what the padding is. It's 20 pixels around and it's orange. So basically, you're seeing what the padding looks like. Normally, you're not going to see that, but for this video, I want you to see that. Okay, and then I just styled the div down here a little bit as well. So let's go take a deeper look. So the box model is basically made up of 4 components. The content box, which you can see here because I do have the orange padding around it. So this is the content box. I have it set at the height at 75 pixels. That's why it's kind of high like this. So you have the number 1, the content box. Number 2 is the padding, and the padding is orange going around here. Number 3 is the border. I have that set at 5 pixels, and that's blue. And then you have the margin. The margin I have set at 10 pixels going all around here like this. Now let's look at the numbers. So now I have some numbers on the screen, and let's just dissect this a little bit more, the box model. So the content box, which is right here, this is a box, anything, that white box in the middle. The content box is white, and the width is 300 pixels. So from left to right, 300 pixels. Now the padding is orange, and it's 20 pixels all around. The border is blue, and it's 5 pixels. And the margin, which we're not going to worry about right now, is 10 pixels going around too. So the actual width is 300 pixels plus 20 pixels plus 20 pixels on the left and the right, plus 5 pixels plus 5 pixels on the border left and right. So that equals 300 plus 20 times 2 plus 5 times 2 equals 350 pixels. So if I go from this blue border on the left all the way to the right side, blue border on the right, that is 350 pixels. But the width is 300 pixels right here, 300 pixels from here to here. Now let's look at the height. The content box in the middle again is white, and the height is 75 pixels. So from this one white area to this top right here, 75 pixels. Padding again is orange, is 20 pixels, 20 pixels. And the border again is blue, 5 pixels, 5 pixels. So the actual height right down here, the actual height is 75 pixels plus the padding is 20 plus 20 is 40 plus 5 is 10. So equals 75, 40 plus 10 equals 125 pixels. So from the top blue all the way down to the bottom blue border, it's 125 pixels, but inside is actually the height is 75. So if we look down once more, a little bit more down here before we get to the next step, but the width is 300 pixels from here to here in the white box, but the actual width is 350 pixels. Now the height in the middle is 75 pixels in this white box here, but the actual height is 125 pixels from this blue border all the way to this top border. So why is that important? It's very important because next we're going to go over content box versus border box, and that means everything. Okay, now we're going to look at content box versus border box. But first, just one quick note is that I don't know if I stressed enough, but margin is not included in the actual width and the actual height. So margin is not included. Okay, let's look at the markup first. In HTML, I have 2 P tags, one here and one here. One is called this is a content box, one is called this is a border box, and they both have different classes. Content box is one class and border box is the other. Let's look at the styling. Styling is exactly the same as you can see on the right. They are exactly the same with the width, height, everything the same. And remember, I used the box shadow to show you what it looks like, so you can see the actual padding here. Great. Okay, now in the first box, I am going to add box sizing. And we're going to put that as content box. So what do you think would happen with box sizing content box? So I only just changed that right there. So let's run that and see what happens. Actually, let's go up here, see it in the other browser, and let's run it. And nothing happened. Nothing happened. Okay, the reason nothing happened is because content box is the default setting. So those first two examples, that first example I looked at, that was content box. So you don't need to put box sizing content box on here. But I'm doing that just for this video so you can see the difference. So now that we know that does nothing, let's go to box sizing, and we're going to box sizing. We're going to add box sizing, and we're going to do border box. Now, what do you think will happen when we do border box? So let's go outside here, and let's run that and take a look. Well, first of all, the width got shorter and the height got shorter. I wonder why that happened. So we are going to take a look at why that happened. Okay, this is where the actual height and actual width come into play. So with border box here, our second box, the width, the 300 pixels, is our actual width. Whereas in the content box, the 300 pixels is just the width plus the height plus the padding plus the border. So in this case, it's 300 pixels is the actual width. It's not the width, but the actual width. So let's see what that looks like with numbers. Let's take a look at the numbers here. So let's look at the content box first. So content box has 300 pixels in this white box here, from here to here. Then you got the plus the padding of 20 and 20, it's 40, and plus the border of 5 and 5. So 350 pixels, the actual width, that's in red, their actual width. Whereas the border box, the actual width from the blue to the blue border is 300 pixels, actual width. So then you subtract the padding 20 and 20 and the border of 5 and 5 to get the width. So the width, in the middle here, the width is 250 pixels compared to the width of content box of 300 pixels. That's why it's larger, because the actual width which you write down is actually including the padding and the border. So if we want to even these out, what we need to do is we need to increase the actual width of the border box by 50 pixels. So let's go and do that. Let's see what that looks like. So if we go in here and go into style and see, so the width here on the content box, that's the width only, that's not the actual width. But if we go here under border box and if we increase this is the actual width. If we increase this to 350 pixels, okay, that's going to be included. That's going to be the total width. So let's go back here and refresh that. And you can see how that stretches out the width there. So it's 350 pixels. So the actual width would be here 350 pixels. If I was going to change that, this would be 350. And then the width would be 300 here. The width would be 300 here. So you can see it makes a huge difference. Right here, go back here with the border box width right here. And it makes an even bigger difference, you can see, with the height. So let's look at the numbers on the height. Now let's look at the height. Okay, the height in the content box right here is, if you look at this line here, is 75 pixels. So it keeps that. This is 75 pixels from bottom to top, right in the white box. And then we have the padding and the 5 pixels for the border. So the actual height right here is 125 pixels. But if we look at the border box, the actual height, the total actual height is 75 pixels. So from this line to this line here, from the blue to the blue, so, and then you subtract out the padding and the border box, the border actually, and you only have 25 pixels of real height, So this height is 25 pixels. This height is 75 pixels. So you can see a huge difference there. So how do we make this even again with the height at least? So if we change the actual height, this is actual height, 125 pixels. If we change this to 75 pixels, so let's go back and do that. Let's change the border box. And if we go back up here, and if we change the actual height to 125 pixels. Let's get that again. The actual height is 125 pixels here on the content box. So if we change this from 75 to 125 because it takes the actual, not just the height. So if we look once more, under the content box, this height is 75 pixels. That's only 75 pixels in the white box in the middle. Then it adds the padding and the border. Whereas this 125 is the total height, subtracting out those two. So if we save this and look here, our height should be the same, not the width, but the height. And there we go, the height is the same. So which one do we want to use, content box or border box? The answer is border box. So why do we want to use border box? Because if we know that we want to keep the actual height, or let's say the width here, we want to keep the actual width at 300 pixels. We would do border box, and then we would put 300 pixels under width rather, and we know that that's never going to change. I don't care if the padding gets bigger or smaller, this width is never going to change because the padding and the border are incorporated inside. Okay, so it's not going to be the width, but it'll be the actual width. So that's why we want to use border box, because basically it's just easier. I know we can do the calculations, but it's just easier to do. So where do we put border box into CSS? I'll show you that next. We would put border box in all the way at the top. So border sizing, we call it. So where you see the universal selector, you would hit return here, and then border sizing, and then colon, and then we do border box. Border dash box, and that's where we normally put it in there. You can put it in different places, but that's where it normally goes. That way it just takes on everything down in CSS. It'll make it border box. So like I said, once more, we use border box because we know that here under border box that the width is never going to change. Once it's 300 pixels, that's the actual width, whereas in the content box, that's not the actual width, that's just the width of the content box inside. Okay, well, I hope this cleared up the box model and also content box and border box. If you have any questions, please leave comments below. And if you like this video, please hit the like button, and please don't forget to subscribe as well. And there will be more videos coming out soon. Thank you so much.